Good evening and welcome everybody to tonight's Cabinet meeting on the 5th of December. The meeting's been live streamed to the Cheltenham Borough Council YouTube channel, and the recording of the meeting will be held for 4 years. Welcome to any members of the public who are watching the meeting on YouTube. As you'll be aware, we've got temporary measures in place, and we do have security here in present, but we don't have any members of the public with us tonight. To note that there's no fire alarm expected, and we all know the way out of the building and where to go. I've got apologies tonight from Councillor Clucas, who is doing something with the Local Government Association elsewhere, and congratulations to Mike Collins, who is up in St Albans with his family because he's just had a new grandson arrive. Are there any declarations of interest? No. That leads us on then to the minutes of the last meeting. Do any members have any comments on the minutes of last meeting? If not, could I see a show of hands to approve those minutes? Thank you all. Today we don't have any member questions. We do have one public question. I understand that Ms Lax is not here tonight, and therefore the question will be taken as read, and the answer has been supplied to her. And I'd like to thank Councillor Hallwood for his support in answering that question. It was a sort of bit of a double question, really, partly falling within Councillor Clucas's area and partly falling within your portfolio. So hopefully that member of the public will be happy with the answer that she has had. We don't have anything referred to from the council or any overruled scrutiny or any of the other committees. So that then leads us on to section 5 reports from cabinet members tonight. The first one is the Treasury Midterm Report 23-24, which is the report of Councillor Jeffreys.
Thank you, Leader. Colleagues, regulations require the Council to regularly review and scrutinise the Treasury management activities undertaken each year. This includes the investments we hold as well as the borrowings we've taken out to fund key projects and programmes. This report is important as it provides details of the outturn position for Treasury activities for the first 6 months of the financial year and outlines how activities are compliant with the Council's policy previously approved by members in this Council in March 2023. The report shows that we are still experiencing pressure on our budget as a result of the rise in Bank of England rates in the first 5 months of the year. This has specifically impacted our temporary borrowing we currently hold, which is more exposed to those rate changes. These pressures are also reported in the Q2 monitoring report, which is later on the agenda. Work is ongoing as part of the 2024-25 budget process to review our borrowing and minimise the risk of additional pressures being created when existing fixed-rate loans expire, which may attract much higher interest in new or temporary deals. And this report has been presented and discussed at the Treasury Management Panel, and with colleagues' support this evening, it will be recommended on to full Council. I'll have to take any questions, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Jeffreys. Are there any questions on the Mid-Treasury report tonight? Any comments? Can I see, therefore, a show of hands, please? That's a unanimous decision. That then leads us on to... So our agenda item 5 has been withdrawn. And then that takes us on to the Corporate Risk Register, which is a report of myself. The Corporate Risk Register is a really important document for this authority, and it takes me back to when I talk about the fact that we must be risk aware but not risk averse. And there's lots and lots of detail in this report, and I really do thank Anne Wollstonecroft in particular for her input in our risk register. Is there any member who'd like to make any comments on the risk register, the corporate risk register this time around? It is only for noting, but no questions or concerns over the report. Excellent. I don't think there's anything more I need to say about it in this instance. So if I could see a show of hands, please, just to say that we've noted it. We then move on to the award of rent support grants to the voluntary sector organisations, which is the report of Councillor Jeffreys.
Thank you, Nida. Colleagues, this report details the rent support applications from the First Haverley Scouts in Penrith Road and the North and West Gloucestershire Citizen Advice Bureau, who are tenants in our building in the basement. These applications have been assessed. Now, the Rent Support Grant Scheme enables this council to support the viability of the voluntary community sector organisations renting out properties and obviously support those benefits they provide to Cheltenham's social and economic well-being. In order to qualify for rent support, organisations must demonstrate how the use of the property contributes to the council's agreed corporate priorities. Each application is assessed in terms of their contribution to the 4 criteria: the environment, the economy and culture, vitality, safe and strong communities, and strengthening the emotional and physical well-being of residents. And the amount of subsidy recommended relates to the degree to which the applicant meets each of the criteria. I've got to say the voluntary and community sector does so much in support of the well-being of the town. It is a privilege as part of my portfolio, as you can imagine. The amount of reports I brought with some doom and gloom attached to them, this one actually gives me a bit lovely warm feeling. Being able to support our community and voluntary organisations is a privilege. So I'll happy to recommend the report to Cabinet. Thank you, Leader.
Any member like to comment on this one? Councillor Atherstone.
Thank you, Leader. I'd just like to thank Councillor Jeffreys for bringing this report to us today. And I'd like to say that I'm particularly pleased with regards to the support for citizens' advice. I know how much they do for residents across Cheltenham. I note that in the report it says 850 people were provided advice last financial year. They do great work, anything from benefit and money advice to supporting people access home efficiency grants and things like that. So just a little shout out in terms of appreciation for the work that they do.
Any other member? No, I think I'd just like to say, sort of reiterate actually what Councillor Jeffrey says is when you go out and about in our communities as we do as councillors, the amount of work from litter picking to scout groups to the resource centres, all of them, they make up the very special place that Cheltenham is. And we couldn't do and deliver as a town for our residents without all of those groups. They're a really important part of our town. So can I see a show of hands to approve this report? Thank you, one and all. So this sort of leads us on actually to the budget monitoring report, which actually, when we've just talked about being able to deliver stuff for our communities, you know, our budget monitoring report shows exactly why we do need to be able to have those communities that help us deliver for each other in the town. But it's the report of Councillor Jeffreys.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, we had the nice, fluffy community wellbeing support report just then. Here comes the doom and gloom, unfortunately. Colleagues, the report presented this evening is the forecast outturn position against our 2023-2024 budget that was approved by full council in February of this year. You will remember that due to inflationary pressures on energy costs, pay awards, interest rate increases in 2022-23, we needed £2.6 million from general balances to balance our budget. Thankfully, we were in a fortunate position that general balances were at a level to support this. Moving into 2023-2024, it was budgeted that £150,000 would be added to general balances by the 31st of March 2024. At this point in the year, however, we are currently forecasting by year end we will have overspent against our approved budget by £700,000. This is compared to a forecasted overspend of £475,000 at the end of June. There are a number of pressures reported in the Q1 monitor which have increased since the previous Cabinet presentation and report, and these are outlined in the report today. There are also still a number of external factors that continue to be outside of the Council's control. Interest rates, we all know we're there about those. Inflation, we've talked about that numerous times, and also the higher than budgeted pay award. Our focus continues to be on areas of our budget that we can control. We have reported many times over the last 18 months that our balances and reserves are finite, and without making further contributions to general balances, we will need to identify additional savings and efficiencies above the current medium-term financial strategy. Our focus as a Council needs to be on mitigating the forecasted overspends in the budget, which are detailed in the report, making sure we identify savings and efficiencies are making sure the identified savings and efficiencies are delivered as planned. I would, as I always do, but with more importance, I think, given the volatility we've had over the last few years, like to put on record my thanks to Gemma and the finance team for all their continued efforts during these turbulent economic times. I commend the report to you, Leader. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jeffries. Any member wish to comment? Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to put on record, as I often do, my thanks to Pete and to the finance team, because we are working under truly incredible pressures. I don't think anybody who has been reading the news over the past few months can believe that the job that they have is easy. So many councils across the country are going completely under, and it's quite a stressful time for so many of us, but I think there's much to be grateful for in this report, in the way that the team have worked incredibly hard to find opportunities to keep us afloat and to keep a use of our resources in some really smart ways, which I think is really important in our current situation. It's a real shame, I have to say, that local authorities across the country have been put in this position following the autumn statement, which included basically nothing for us. I mean, I'm sure Rishi Sunak reads the news as well and clearly just doesn't care. It's really quite depressing, but thank you to Pete and to our officer team who do clearly care so much about protecting the services and the people, the things that people rely on here in Cheltenham.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. Any other member wish to comment on the budget monitoring? Peter, is there anything you want to come back on? No? Could I see a show of hands then, please, for this? That's a unanimous. Thank you all for that. That now takes us on, that is the end of tonight's reports. So it takes us on to now the Cabinet member briefings. If I start with you, Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Leader. I speak too much in this meeting, I will admit. I just wanted to put on note my thanks to the climate team who have just finished the very arduous work that it takes to get our carbon footprint ready. So that's something for you all to look forward to next week, if that's your kind of thing. I also wanted to note with great excitement the conclusion of Cheltenham Town Football Club's installation of their new solar panels, which ardent followers of Cheltenham Borough Council's cabinet meetings will remember that we are part funding as part of our Green Deal loan scheme. I was really excited to see it. They've got 213 solar panels, which makes it one of the biggest solar installations in the English Football League, which is pretty nice and pretty exciting. And it's fantastic that Cheltenham Borough Council played a key role in making that happen. So something to look forward to. Thanks.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Leader. Two updates. Pleased to report that thanks to Section 106 funding and the work of the Public Art Panel and officers of this authority with the Cheltenham Trust and other partners, we've appointed a duo to deliver a Celebrating Women arts project in time for International Women's Day next year. It's a really exciting project and more information will follow. And secondly, I'd just like to thank everybody who's been involved with the ice rink. I was there with Tweedy the Clown and Mayor Councillor Babbage to open the ice rink a couple of weekends ago. And it's absolutely terrific to see so many people having fun, and not necessarily all the people who would always be engaging with this authority as well. Lots of younger people, lots of families engaging, with the work of this authority in marketing Cheltenham, which I think is seriously positive. And of course, it's being run on effectively vegetable oil and batteries, which places us at the leading edge of those organisations that are putting on ice rinks from a climate perspective too. And that technology, when applied to the Cheltenham Festivals, was endorsed by Planet Cheltenham, which is a really important thing for us to note, and it was actually noted by the Culture Board when we met earlier this week as well. So, in fact, it was last week when we met with the Culture Board. So, really positive things going on in this town, and I think we can be very proud of the work that's been done.
Councillor Doby.
Just one thing, I'd like it noted that there is now a new Friends of group in another of the parks of our town, and that is the brand new QE2. That's the QE2 as in Queen Elizabeth II Park in Battledown, which has such a group, and they've already started work. And the work that is done by the Friends of groups really makes such a difference to our green spaces, and they continue to expand. In fact, the numbers of people involved in our Friends of groups and our volunteers in general has doubled in recent years, and I think it's great, and I want that on the record, please.
Councillor Atherstone.
Thank you, Leader. Two updates from me today. Firstly, I want to say a huge thank you to housing officers that it's been incredible. They have managed to complete on the purchase of 21 new homes as part of the part-funded government's local authority housing fund. The deadlines were extremely tight, set by government, so to be able to deliver on 21 new homes for Ukrainian families and one for an Afghan family is just fabulous. So a huge thank you to them. Also, I'd like to say that progress is happening with regards to our decision to look to bring the housing services back in-house. And as part of that, we have promised a consultation with tenants and leaseholders with regards to creating a new tenant and leaseholder offer. The papers and the advice and the survey and the drop-in centres will all commence before Christmas, so mid-December, and that consultation period will close at the beginning of February. So just a bit of a shout out to please do. We really value feedback, and we look forward to shaping that new offer with tenants and leaseholders. Thank you.
Councillor Horwood.
Thank you, Leader. I'd just like to congratulate the planning team, actually. There is a regular league table published which looks at how quickly councils determine planning applications, and I can report that in the category of the household and minor planning applications, which is the vast majority of the work that our planning team deal with, they determined 86% of those planning applications within the government target time, which is not only better than almost every other council in Gloucestershire. I am slightly irritated to report that Stroud did slightly better, but it's also well above the England average. So for most people putting through planning applications, most ordinary people putting through planning applications, they're getting a very good and rapid service from our planning team, which I think is great. They also rank you on the major applications, the much more complex ones, which sometimes, as we know, can take years. And it is a slightly more mixed picture there. We're not quite as high up the league table, but even there we determined 82% of major applications that were determined this year on time. So overall, it's a very good picture, and that's at a time when the planning team have been through quite a difficult time with some staffing challenges and different leadership, and they are now under the leadership of Chris Gomm, who has made a terrific start as the new Head of Development Management. But I don't think he can entirely take credit for all of this because he's only been with us for about 3 weeks. So it's really a congratulations to the whole team. Thank you, Leader.
Councillor Jeffreys.
Thank you, Leader. Colleagues may recall a couple of months ago, we took the decision to dispose of Idsall Drive car park. But at the time, there was some correspondence that came into the council, and the Leader made a specific request at a cabinet meeting that I go in and try and reignite the conversation that had happened previously with the parish council. Well, I did undertake this with the support of the property team. There was a lot of information flowed between the new chair and the property team, and we had a meeting, very productive. Lovely, lovely people, the parish councillors that I met. They took all that information and took it under consideration, and at their last council meeting, their parish council meeting, unfortunately declined to progress with any purchase or moving forward with that asset. So yes, we will obviously then go to market with that particular asset leader, but I thought I'd update colleagues here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jeffries, for that, and I appreciate you and the officers going out to meet with the parish councils. Parish councils are a really important part of our local government within the town, so it is important. And on that note, I was glad to see some councillors there, but I went to introduce at the parish councils had what they call a C5 away day. And it was basically to talk about sustainability and climate change, and to take a presentation on from Tracy Cruz on the community infrastructure levy and SIL and the local development framework. So she did a very good presentation. Of course, there was lots of discussion and debate at that day. It was broken down into groups. Some were more productive than others, but I think on balance, everybody actually enjoyed the day and felt it very worthwhile. And particularly, you know, I was very pleased to see that there were not just our own parish councils, but those that border our boundaries, that, you know, where there is definite overlap there. So that was very good. I mean, everybody would have seen quite recently that Nottingham have suffered a financial blow, and we talked a lot tonight about the difficulties, the financial difficulties that all local authorities across the country are suffering. And there was a couple of weeks ago an emergency leadership Gloucestershire meeting to discuss homelessness and the fact that the government has now speeded up the approval for refugees. And one of the concerns that was raised was that by the time the notification gets through to those people who are in those hotels, they have about 7 days to get out and quit and move from there. I haven't read the details yet, but there was an announcement today that actually said that the government have rowed back on that because there's been such a lot of lobbying and outcry to say that actually these people are just now being made homeless. So these hotels are becoming empty, fine, but there's nowhere else for them to go. And there was another Leadership Gloucestershire meeting today that I attended, that where we are trying to work together as districts because no one authority can really carry the burden financially, because there is no government finance for any form of homelessness. So one of the suggestions was today that was raised was around doing a small number of reigniting, if you like, the Homes for Ukraine scheme, that the County Council are going to have put forward that proposition to districts, but obviously that's, again, not permanently funding. So I think it's watch this space, because it is, you know, we know that Gareth is chucking out sleeping bags to people, and it is just unacceptable that we would have people sleeping and living on our streets during the winter, well, at any time, but through largely no fault of their own. And this doesn't, you know, obviously we've got all sorts of different types of homelessness. And I think one of the things for me is that, you know, we are a town of sanctuary, and we very much want to support and do everything that we can. But actually, we do need some government support financially to be able to do this. That was my update for today. There are no matters that I've decided are urgent, but I've now missed the decisions piece. I just heard that little whisper just as I was saying that. So there were 4 decisions. I know one of them was only actually made today. So the first decision was, well, the first 2 decisions were the Cabinet Member Housing.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I'm pleased again that we've been able to support 2 fantastic local organisations in Cheltenham, CCP and Open Door. with a small grant award each as part of Deluxe Rough Sleeper Move On and Prevention grant funding. The two organisations do fantastic work in our communities, and so I'm very pleased that we've been able to award these small grants to them.
Thank you. The next decision was a decision that I took to, we asked for all councillors to come forward because the Councillor John Payne, the then Councillor John Payne stood down from the, or Councillor Fifield rather, sorry, not Councillor Payne, stood down from the Prestbury United Charities, which is, you know, another one of our very important little organisations that can give money to support. They don't just support those charities in Prestbury, they do look wider across the town. And Councillor Stan Smith, the new PAB councillor, put his name forward to do that, so I made a decision to approve that. The final decision was that of the Cabinet member, Councillor Doby.
Okay, I was and am happy to endorse this decision to contract for bedding plants. And to preempt a possible question, for the record, I'd like it noted that this decision on bedding plants for a couple of our town centre gardens in no way implies that CBC has ceased its commitment to planting ever more perennial flowers and plants across Cheltenham's green spaces. Thank you.
Thank you. That takes us to the fact that I can now say that there are no other items that I decide as are urgent, and therefore it's 20...